Welcome to Private Club Radio, your weekly source for industry education, news and discussion. Broadcasting from Tampa, Florida, ladies and gentlemen, here is your host, Gabriel Aloisi.
Are you looking for members for your club? Well, if so, you've tuned in to the right episode here on Private Club Radio. That's the subject we'll be tackling, a subject near and dear to my heart, as you know. But what's even cooler is we're going to have one of my very best friends on the show, Krimitsos. And you probably don't know it, but Chris was really the catalyst for Private Club Radio happening. He strongly encouraged me for over a year to start a podcast and really mentored me throughout the journey. And in a huge way, he's responsible for this show reaching you every single Monday. And what's even cooler is that Chris is a membership development expert. He's built organizations, communities, and clubs all over the world his entire life. And so I wanted to tap his brain and get some ideas from outside the private club world on membership development. Chris really brings it, and you're going to enjoy that. Afterwards, we'll be chatting with Hannah Eanes of the Professional Club Marketing Association. She's going to give us a recap on the recent Florida symposiums. You can see what you missed and give us a preview of their upcoming national conference that's happening in September up in Chicago. So it's all about membership and membership development on this episode. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. Here's our first guest. It's my pleasure to welcome to the show Chris Krimitsos. He is the founder of the Tampa Bay Business Owners, and he's also the founder of PodFest Multimedia Expo, the largest podcasting conference on the East Coast. He's put on over 5,000 live events, building communities all across the country. Chris, welcome to Private Club Radio.
Hey, Gabe, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man, it's great to have you. So you've got all this experience building groups. That's really something that you've excelled at throughout your life. Why don't we just, talk about how you got into that, what makes you tick, and the types of groups that you've put together.
Well, I got into TV production on public access TV back in the day, and what I realized I was really good at inviting guests. And what I did is to create more value, because I wanted the guests always to come back, was I would make sure to invite people that during the breaks, commercial breaks, I would have them connect with each other. And what would happen is they'd almost always do business or say, wow, that was a really great contact. So I realized I had this gift for connecting people. But then out of that, the people that would be coming onto my shows became part of my community. So when the writing was on the wall and, there's no more public access, I was able to launch a community for business owners out of the TV show and all the guests that I had. And we literally made it a three-dimensional thing, a membership community where people paid yearly fees, monthly dues, depending on, what their budget was, to be part of this amazing community. So what I'm really great at was really facilitating a culture that allowed for collaboration and connectivity.
Yeah. One thing I loved that you guys did is you really put in these personal touches, and you were really kind of the support the community gave was really second to none. So for people who weren't a part of that organization, what you would do is people would fill out goals and then, things they wanted to accomplish within the next 30 days. And you would actually then follow up with a postcard about halfway through the month and tell people, just remind them, here are the goals that you committed to. And I thought that was really powerful. Let's talk about some of the other ways that you use those personal touches to create this community.
Well, we knew who our community was, and we would do a thing called Members on the Move. And every month in our newsletter, we would figure out what our members were up to. We would see it either on social media or they would write it in. We'd allow them to write in their Members on the Move. And we would then announce it at our general session. Hey, congrats to... So we would highlight whoever was in-house. And it was a really nice booster to see your fellow members succeeding and to mile mark your success with them each and every month. So we would figure out ways to motivate the members to know that they were in a group of very active individuals doing great things. And what's interesting is over time, our members were, I would say, the top 10% most active business owners in the community. And it created a very special sauce amongst each other, and we would help each other. And anytime someone needed a resource, those little touch points made the community very tight-knit. And I think that's something that a lot of people miss. Was it a lot of work? Absolutely. Was the work well worth it? Yes, because it made the community that much tight-knit, sweeter, just better to hang out with people because you just have such a good time hanging around with good people that want to learn.
Yeah. The other thing that you do, and I've seen at your conferences, you have these things, they're like gratitude ceremonies. So I'd love for you to talk to us about that and why that's such a powerful tool.
Yeah, we used to do cruises every year, and you've been on the cruise, and the cruises were amazing. They were definitely not a revenue driver, but they were definitely a relationship builder. So if someone came onto the cruise, they probably, if you were to track the stats, they probably would be a member for a very long time of the organization because of the community that was bonded. And at the end of one of the cruises, we had such a good time. I was like, ending this with the speaker doesn't do it justice. So I put a microphone in the front of the room and I said, hey guys, if anyone wants to say anything of gratitude to someone that was at the event, feel free to come up. And all of a sudden, everybody, one after another, would talk and thank someone that was part of the cruise or made their experience that sweeter. And then I took that concept to PodFest, which is a training we do for podcasters, a huge conference, I should say. And that really bonded the community where people go up to the mic in front of, 100, 200, now it's close to 1,000 people. They'll go up to the mic and they get 30 seconds to tell us who they're grateful for or something that they might be grateful for. So it's really a powerful thing that came out of the community.
Yeah. So for those who weren't there at PodFest, it was hundreds of people sitting there in the conference room for literally probably an hour to an hour and a half of folks just thanking other people and letting them know how special they were. And to me, it was just so powerful to see that, nobody got up and left. And I think that's something that clubs could actually do in their own communities, maybe around the holidays or something, where people just say thank you to the other members and the other staff and people who have helped them out. I think that'd be a super powerful way to build a community. Well, those are some positives. Let's talk about some negatives. What are some of the lessons you've learned over building communities and some things that you might do over again if you had the chance?
Okay, so there's a business club I belong to in my home area, and I want to just mention this case study. They literally had 750 members or so, and they literally went through a remodel, $1.5 million remodel, on the assumption that once they had a newer space, that their membership would increase. Well, quite the opposite. Their membership has plateaued. It has not increased. And what was interesting is they made a false assumption that a brand new place will make for a better membership experience. And I just want to be very clear that a lot of times people put the focus on things that are, yes, do we all want a new club that's brand new? Absolutely. But does that make a difference overall in the membership experience? Not really. It's the culture and community that really binds people, and it's moments with one another. So I just want to make that clear. What I wish I would have told myself now that I go back and look at, now I was very fortunate to sell my company, but at the same time I sold it to someone that wasn't as passionate about it, so it took them about a year to really disassemble it. So it's painful to watch that. But here's what I wish I would have told myself. When you have a small staff, let's say you have a small staff and you're trying to bring in new members and at the same time trying to retain members. So if your staff is not big enough, you're better off focusing on bringing in new members every day of the week and then making sure you have phenomenal events and then obviously keeping in touch with your members. But you don't want to put, if you don't have enough resources, you don't want to put half your staff working full-time on retention and the other half on new members. You're almost better off putting 90% of your energy on the new members, making sure you're facilitating connectivity and having a great time with your current members, and then retention. Whoever you retain. Whoever you don't. Obviously, you want to do an exit interview. But it's the new member recruitment, bringing in new members, that is the lifeblood of a club. And a lot of times the focus goes to retention and they forget about new member. And that's when you see your numbers really dip if you don't focus on that equation.
It's interesting that that's your perspective because from my experience, retention is really important just because it costs a lot less to retain a member than to get a new one. But you're kind of taking that opposite stance. So can you dive a little bit deeper into that?
Yeah, it's not about retention is extremely important. So here's what I'm saying. What I'm saying is if you do a decent job of retention, you can't be great at both at the same time if you have a limited amount of resources. If you're a bigger club and you have tons of resources to allocate a full-time person, you should absolutely be focusing on both. But let's say the club is not big enough and they have a small team and they're trying to do a lot of things at once. The way I look at it is, if you're doing a great job, you're going to retain, depending on the club, don't know what the numbers are, but in the, let's say the Chamber of Commerce niche, small Chamber of Commerce that deals with small business is going to retain 50% of the members no matter what they do. If you do a really good job, you might retain 60%. 70 is almost out of the park, because you're going to lose people due to business, due to outside things outside your realm. So if you're limited in your capacity, you're better off bringing in new members as much as you can, facilitating their experience. But what I mean by member retention, if you had one person and their energy was to be spent on bringing new members or retaining old members, you have to put them on bringing in new members, and you're going to retain your members that you're going to retain. But that extra energy, let's just say you 50 hours equal, you retain 2 extra people. That might mean your retention went from 60% to 63%. You're better off putting that energy on bringing new members, because overall your retention rate will go up over time. I don't know if that makes any sense.
It does, and I think people have to put it all in perspective. I mean, if you're going to build the community and nurture the community, then they're also going to stay at the same time. So that way your efforts are better spent on the membership development. So that does make sense when you put it in that way.
We had a very high retention rate because we focused on the members. My challenge for me, this is a personal thing, so I don't want it going out where people are like, oh, I should just do one or the other. We only had a 3-person team. So unfortunately, the way the 3-person team was structured, and with 120 events a year, we were trying to do all things and be great at all of them. And what I wish I would have done is allocated some energy in one department and not the other, because when it would divide when we would divide our human capital, we would see numbers dip on the new member flow. And you know, membership business, you always have, no matter what happens, you always have to have new members coming in, because eventually that number will show up on the bottom line on the back end.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think another thing that you've done really well in building your communities is a concept that I've coined called member collisions, right? Finding ways for other members to collide with each other. And you've come up with some really interesting games and ways for people to do that. You've used, for instance, like poker playing cards in order to get people to meet new people. Can you talk about some interesting ways you've had members collide in your organizations?
Yeah, so this is something that not a lot of people realize. But if you're working in your golf club or your private club, you assume that everybody knows each other. That assumption is incorrect. And it could be because, let's say, Gabe, a fellow friend, Gary, I might see Gabe talking to Gary thinking, oh, Gabe must know everybody else. But it's quite the opposite. Gabe doesn't know everybody else, and he needs to meet everybody else. So what we did was we would have really interesting questions of the day sometimes, and we would then say, hey, answer this question of the day and go meet someone that you would like, answer it with someone in the room that you haven't met before. Or we would do a strategic alliance, which basically we give you a numbered card to tell you to sit at a certain numbered table. And then within that person of 7 at that round table, you would pass your business cards and tell each other, you would tell each other what you do. So it would take about 20 seconds, say, hey, I'm Gabe with Private Club Radio. This is what I do. And then we'd have you answer a question that would be up on the screen saying, Gabe, share the best advice you were ever given by a relative or a business mentor. And then you would impart something. What's interesting is when I give you something heartfelt that's personal to you, you start connecting with people, and those collisions become very organic. And it's extremely important that we have multiple collisions. And then what you try and do is find people in the room that are natural connectors, and we would make them part of our ambassador pool. And their job would be to make sure to connect members with one another and help those collisions accelerate. And when that happens, you literally have a place that you have an experience that really is tough to duplicate because it takes a lot of work to do, but your retentions go up, your new member referrals go up. All the numbers go up if you focus on collisions and making sure people get to know each other.
Yeah, I love the ambassador program, and I could definitely see clubs using that. So if you're doing a new member mixer or some kind of new member orientation, you've got a lot of people in the room. I think some of those concepts would be huge to really get people plugged in right away and day one making friends, which is going to keep them there a whole lot longer. Chris, any other tips that you would have that come to mind in terms of membership development, or just fostering these long-term relationships with folks?
Yeah, I have a great tip because I've been I belong to a lot of different clubs. And here's a tip I would give any club manager. Don't give in to mediocrity. And what I mean by that is many times you'll have one squeaky wheel that will raise a ruckus, and you'll be like, oh man, I don't want to disappoint, this member because they're creating a ruckus. I was never afraid to tell that member, let's say if someone said, hey, why are you favoring Gabe over the rest of us? I'd say, I'm not favoring Gabe. Gabe has put in the time, has been a member for longer than any of you guys. Gabe is also speaking and also provides a lot of value. Therefore, Gabe has that position. So I never was afraid to justify my decisions because I always pick people based on the merit of their contribution. Now, you will have a problem if you're, picking people based on, what benefits you, not the club. But if you're doing something to benefit the club and you could explain it, don't give in to the squeaky wheel. Stand up for yourself and your club, because overall that will help the long-term growth of your club by picking the right people. And then, you're going to have personality conflicts from time to time. Deal with it. That's why we're in the hospitality industry. You deal with it, but don't ever give in to mediocrity. I'd rather see someone do something great and grow their club and their numbers than give in to one squeaky wheel and have a subpar club.
Right. Sometimes it's better to actually get rid of and remove the squeaky wheel, right? You've had to do that.
That's my policy. Yeah, that's a tough one, but we've refunded money back, sent checks. Literally, I remember once, this was when we were starting out and I needed that money to make payroll. I took the check and the person was making the female members of our group very uncomfortable. And one of those members later on be my wife, but at the time she wasn't. It was valid feedback. I heard it from 3 or 4 different individuals, and what I did was I put the check in the envelope, mailed it back to the individual, said, hey, we appreciate you considering us, but we highly recommend, you might find some other clubs that are more suitable to your needs.
Yeah.
And that also alleviates a lot of problems down the road, because think about it. One person came to one meeting and made 3 people uncomfortable. Imagine the damage that they would do over a year's time.
Right. Totally. It's sometimes, it's the old adage, the one rotten apple deal. That's awesome. Well, I'd be remiss if I didn't let listeners know that, Chris, you're really the reason I started podcasting. There wouldn't be a Private Club radio show if you didn't get in my ear and tell me about this and start the community. So first of all, I just want to give you some sincere gratitude from the bottom of my heart. And I'm sure listeners would probably feel the same way, the folks that enjoy listening to this show. You've got a big conference coming up. Let's talk about PodFest before you leave. It's the largest conference for podcasters, and it happens in Orlando. So if there's other people listening to the show that want to put their voice out there, this is a place they should be, right? What's going to be going on in March?
Yeah, podfestexpo.com, March 7th to the 9th. We'll have a pre-day about YouTube and stuff, and then the other activities are all audio-based. So we talk about how to be an audio influencer like Gabe. Gabe, you did a great job of breaking down sponsorship packages and showing people how to monetize. So we help people find their voice, monetize their voice, and make money in this amazing space called podcasting. So there'll be over 100 plus sessions that you could attend. And basically we have different tracks, and you could see what track is for you. And if you're a beginner, more the merrier. We have entire programs dedicated to beginners. And if you know anyone that's an active podcaster, please tell them to come out, because we do our best to collaborate and connect our community. And I'm really proud of the job we've done. And Gabe, it's thanks to people like yourself who are pillars of the community. Tyler, who you and I were hanging out in California just the other day. We have phenomenal human beings that want to pay it forward and help one another. So if you're considering podcasting, come out to PodFest Expo and join us in Orlando next year.
Yeah, or really any multimedia creation in general, because like you said, you have the YouTube track and everything else going on. You also consult with individuals out there. So if folks are maybe having some membership issues, some membership problems, want some ideas, are you a person they can lean on?
Yeah, I mean, if you just contact me through krimitsos.com and just input a questionnaire there, I'm really good at helping people identify, challenges and then solutions. Anything to do with membership and membership-driven organizations. I've built 5 of them myself and have learned a lot through the way. So if anyone needs help, my brain is for lease.
That's awesome. And it's nice to get that outside opinion, I think, someone outside the industry to just take a look at it from a different perspective. Love what you had to say, Chris. Thanks so much for being on Private Club Radio.
Hey, thanks, Gabe.
That guy is solid gold. He's full of such good stuff. Well, my next guest is Hannah Eanes. She's the Vice President of Member Relations at the Professional Club Marketing Association. Hannah, how are you doing today?
Hi, Gabe. I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. So you guys just got done wrapping up the Florida Symposium and would love to get some of the big takeaways that happened there. You had some really fantastic speakers on the lineup.
Yeah, early in June, we hosted a day of education at Frenchman's Creek Beach and Country Club in Palm Beach Gardens, Florida. And as you know, the club and Mr. Goswami are known for their incredible hospitality. And our event attendees were most certainly spoiled by the talented team there. So it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I heard a bunch of people raving about it, just saying how it was just a kind of over the top. One of the reception, especially, they said was really nice. But the education, of course, was really top notch. So what were some of your key takeaways from that day, Hannah?
Yeah, we are really proud of the education and experience that we achieved. And attendees who attended the event scored the opportunity a 4.7 out of 5, which
Wow.
is nearly perfect. Yeah, and 92% of them confirmed they'd recommend the event to a colleague. So we're really proud of that. And, obviously, we don't take something like that lightly, because when we're working to please a room full of dynamic professionals, all from different backgrounds, all from clubs with different priorities, it's really difficult to find that balance. So that's why I'm excited to share some of the top takeaways today, because I think they were really deemed as valuable by the attendees. So with that being said, I'll kind of start with one of my favorites that came from Jim Butler of Club Benchmarking on influencing member loyalty. And it was really interesting to see how when Jim asked the audience about who surveys for membership satisfaction, almost everybody raised their hand. But when he asked the audience about who is actually serving to gauge member loyalty, no one raised their hand.
Wow.
And so I, as a facilitator, asked Jim to talk a little bit more about shifting from the traditional customer service-oriented approach to member surveys to a process that helps clubs measure the loyalty of their members. And so Jim shared that member satisfaction is really about learning how well our members' expectations are being met, but member loyalty is more about understanding how likely our members are to stay long-term and to spread that positive word of mouth. And this is kind of similar to that trending net promoter score, really helping you identify who your promoters are, your passives are, and your detractors.
Oh, that sounds super valuable. Any other lessons that came out of that session or from other sessions?
Yeah, so I think if, you're kind of intrigued by this idea of measuring member loyalty opposed to just focusing on satisfaction, to make this actionable, we really have to ask ourselves, how do we reposition our survey questions? Because when measuring member loyalty, we're looking to determine the likelihood of longevity and kind of that positive word of mouth thing that we talked about. And so we might ask things instead like, how likely are you to recommend the club to your friends? Or with 4th of July celebrations coming up, instead of their traditional kind of 5-question post-event survey, you might just simply ask, how likely are you to invite guests or friends to next year's event? Or if you're a city club, maybe looking to research your lunch crowd from a different angle, you might just simply again ask, how likely are you going to host a colleague out for lunch at the club? So really just kind of simplifying the process. I think traditionally we measured loyalty by behavior, but this can take a lot longer, watching and waiting to see how our members engage, how many events are they attending, how much money are they spending, if they have the opportunity to upgrade their membership category, are they doing that? So instead, I think these loyalty surveys really help capture those insights much faster than watching behavior over time. The loyal surveys are much shorter, kind of that one question, meaning you can send them maybe a little more often since they're just one question, and they're more directly asking the people who are participating for kind of that emotional response versus kind of that standard opinion. And that emotional response is really what's drawing our members close to us rather than pushing them away.
Oh, wow. Yeah, we had them on as a guest a few times. We've had Ray Cronin from Club Benchmarking and Jim Butler as well.
Yeah.
And they've always just got amazing content, and the data that they're putting together is really second to none. So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Jim Butler, he's definitely the expert on this. He's done tremendous research on the subject. and obviously has a tremendous background in private club management and now consulting. So if you'd love to learn more, he would be the guy to talk to.
That's fantastic. Any other speakers stand out to you during the day?
Yeah. I'd talk to you about our session on leadership synergy, where we featured the membership director at Fort Lauderdale Country Club. Her name is Valerie Roca, alongside the club's VP and membership chairman, Derek Holding. And I should note, this education scored the highest from the attendees. And as the facilitator, it was really neat to stand back and see how hopeful everyone in the room was, that they too could find themselves in a situation that was being described by Valerie and Derek. I think sometimes it's really hard for membership and marketing professionals to achieve those close relationships with maybe their committee chairs or their board members. So this session was really impactful to me. As I listened in on the session, it became pretty clear that their many successes, such as a 25% increase in equity membership within 18 months, resulted from strategically identifying and engaging volunteer leadership. And by volunteer leadership, I am meaning your club's board members and your committee members. I think maybe sometimes, or too many times, positions are appointed and filled as a result of club politics, maybe friendships, maybe loyalties, or a line of succession that's previously been committed to. And even maybe in some more dire circumstances, just finding somebody who that will agree to the commitment of serving. But in this case, Fort Lauderdale Country Club, they engaged a membership chairman that brought more than 25 years of marketing and consumer engagement expertise to partnering with their club's talented membership director, who had a background in member relations, member programming, and was also a recent MBA graduate. So together, this rock star duo searched to load their committee with members who also had relevant skills and successful backgrounds in things like communication and marketing.
I love it.
So by doing this, the club goals for membership development were soundly supported by a team qualified for the tasks they'd be charged with. And their goals were backed by a team who really understood the significance of standing behind the changes to maybe their standard processes for membership development that would be proposed, by the committee. So it was really interesting to see, their recipe for success.
I love it. That's so cool. Yeah. Committee structure, I think, is really a hot topic. I've heard a lot of clubs talking about making their committees a little bit more diverse, getting some younger members, some other, stratus from the club membership. And I love that idea. That's really fantastic.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and you certainly don't want to discredit those things that have always been important, like committee orientations and things like that. But I think, the natural synergy that they were able to achieve within their committees was because the club recognized members within for their talents. They acknowledged members for their expertise with an invitation to get involved.
Right.
Maybe these people weren't seeking out the opportunities, but with the gentle nudge of an invitation, they really became engaged. And the club matched members with relevant tasks. And I think this really resulted in a committee of members who were equipped to do much more than simply refer new members or serve as ambassadors. This committee was full of members that were advocating changes to their peers that, might not be received as positively otherwise. And they were getting the buy-in, and they were bringing new creative ideas to the table. So it was very cool. And like I said, super inspiring just to see all of our members in the room eating it up and hoping that they too could emulate the circumstances.
That's so cool. So it was a real treat, it sounds like, for people in Florida to get that one day of education. Now, in September, you guys put on a larger education, goes over the course of nearly 3 days. So let us know what's happening up in Chicago this year, Hannah.
Yes, I'd love to talk to you about our 23rd annual conference on membership and marketing. Very exciting. We will be at the Hilton Palmer House in Chicago, September 17th and 18th of 2018. And the Palmer House in Chicago actually has kind of a unique connection to the private club industry. Are you familiar with that, Gabe?
No, I haven't heard the story. Let's hear it.
Yeah, it was pretty quirky, and it was fun to kind of uncover it as we were looking for conference venues. Chicago millionaire Potter Palmer, he actually gifted the Palmer House Hotel to his wife Bertha as her wedding gift. And then Bertha went on to purchase 1,000 acres of land in what's now not far from you, Osprey, Florida. And she built her dream home there, which she called the Oaks.
Oh, that's where Susan Green is, isn't it? The Oaks Club. I've seen her picture on the wall over there, actually.
There you go. Yeah, Bertha's heirs sold the land to the club to create what we now know as the Oaks. And as you said, Susan Green, the membership director, I think you've had her on the show, and it's been fun to kind of work with her and uncovering a few little details that we, can kind of weave into our conference programming, just because we do have that fun little connection to the industry.
That's super cool. That's really neat. Yeah, and I know that even the Oaks Club itself has really tried to embrace the history there, because there aren't too many females that have started, had properties like that, and they've really done a good job telling that story. Anyways,
right. Her legacy definitely lives on there.
Yeah,
very, very
that's
cool.
So cool.
But yeah, just to kind of share a little, I guess, sneak peek into what we have planned. Like the symposium, we really pride ourselves on creating experiences that achieve information sharing, education, and networking. So we, of course, have a State of the Industry update in the works. And I think one of the sessions I'm most excited about is our Women in Leadership panel. As you know, the weight and the career path of private club membership, marketing, and communications is really evolving and expanding. And so we are super excited to feature a panel of women who have kind of broken down barriers and paved a path to success and becoming really respected leaders within their organizations. And so I think that'll be a really cool session in kind of talking about, what this position of private club membership and marketing has become, and the level of talent and the expectations and requirements that individuals filling these roles really need to be capable of. So that should be really neat. We also love to feature education from within and showcase our members as presenters, giving them the opportunity to share from the trenches what's actually working in private clubs. So we have a couple case studies and success stories planned throughout the conference agenda where we'll be showcasing some of our members. We also have breakout roundtables, and these give our attendees the opportunity to really connect with like-minded peers. So, for example, we'll divide clubs up by maybe club types. So real estate affiliated clubs will be together, or we will divide clubs up by tenure, or maybe we'll divide them up by initiation fees or marketing budgets, so that people can really connect and talk with individuals in similar circumstances. And then last but not least, I can't forget to touch on our social events. For the newbies, we have a first-time attendee connection point planned at Chicago Yacht Club, followed by our opening reception. Our tour of Medina Country Club is already sold out,
Nice.
Which is great news that people are excited about it, but it is sold out. We do have a waiting list for people looking to still go. But as an alternative, we have an awesome James Bond-inspired wine dinner planned at the Union League Club of Chicago. There's still plenty of space there, and that's sure to be an awesome opportunity. And last but not least, we feature kind of a more intimate exhibitor showcase, and we've dedicated some really nice time for our conference attendees to connect and learn from our industry partners that kind of have that niche specific expertise. And so we're really looking forward to having some more specialized and dedicated time for those conversations as well this year.
No, it sounds like it's going to be a blast, Hannah. I've been for the last, I think, 4 years now. And I always get...
I remember your very first conference.
Yeah, it was
I
Vegas.
think it was
Vegas.
At the church. Oh, was it? Yeah, Vegas. Yep.
Yeah.
2012.
Yep. But I had a great time then. I come back every year. I think I'll be doing a pre-conference education this year, doing our social media digital marketing boot camp, which will be really a blast again to do. And I think folks will really get a ton out of those few days. If they want to register for that, Hannah, where do they do that?
Sure. Online is the best way to go about registering, and that web address is just askpcma, askpcma.org/conference.
Sweet. That's that easy. askpcma.org/conference. Get signed up, and I'll see you in Chicago. Hannah, thanks so much for spending a little time with us here on Private Club Radio.
Thank you, Gabe. I really appreciate the opportunity to be with you. I hope you have a great rest of the week.
Yeah, you too. That was a lot of fun, wasn't it? 2 great guests this week on Private Club Radio. We are so lucky over here. Thanks so much for joining me. I want to give a quick shout out to Leo McMahon. I visited his club, the Lost City Golf Club in Atlantis, Florida. Really cool gentleman. We had a great chat, got to see him and have some fun over there. I'll catch you back here next week. Until then, here's to your membership success.
Private Club Radio is brought to you by Concert Golf Partners, helping to preserve and enhance private golf and country clubs. Concert Golf has the capital, expertise, and private club hospitality experience to help upscale private clubs achieving long-term success and membership growth. For 25 years, Concert Golf has allowed private club members to focus on simply enjoying their club. Visit concertgolfpartners.com to learn more about the recapitalization process.